Alright, looks like we're recording. Welcome to Crocoduck Science, episode 7. It's been a long delay, but we're back today with Tristan. Thank you, Tristan, for joining us today.
You're welcome. What's up, Crocoduck? Tell me more about Crocoduck. What's that about?
Oh, Crocoduck, good question. So the name comes from the fact that when Richard Dawkins first came out against creationists, the creationists said to him, if evolution is real, then where are the crocoducks? Because it highlighted their exact misunderstanding of evolution. And so he had a crocoduck tie and he made it kind of a meme. So we thought we'd go with Crocoduck Science when we made our little thing.
Nice.
Because why is there no crocoduck? It's because they've got, they're diverged a long time ago, but creationists think that there should be a crocoduck if evolution is real. So that's the story behind that. But today it's interesting that you would join us because you've been interested in science throughout your life, and we've had some good conversations around science, and it's obviously something you're interested in, but I don't think it was something you've ever fully studied at university or anything. So you must have done it at school, or you've encountered some interesting ideas through your life, or how did you get interested in scientific ideas?
Science didn't come into my life at school at all. Science was more something that I came across by people like yourself. And that's mainly it, really. Just my interactions with people that I'd meet in my life.
So by trade, you're more of a tradie, and as a hobby, you're more of a creative in your b-boying.
Yeah, that's correct.
So in your b-boying, is anyone in that space you encounter any sort of scientific ideas, or not so much? It's more in the creative space and also in the faith space, you were telling me.
Yeah, more so like that. Although, off the top of my head, there is one such b-boy that's like yourself. He's quite into science, and I had discussions with him about science as well. And it's cool. It's just a real eye-opener. Opens your mind up to learning and exploring different concepts in your head. And I thought that's cool,
So you're just interested in all these sort of scientific ideas, or is there some more specific ones you sort of spend more time on? Because we've covered things like, physics with the speed of light and time travel and different types of chemistry. There's quite a bit of politics. My space is more in the biology area, how we're learning how to read DNA and things.
Yeah.
And then, so you seem to be interested in quite a lot. And is there something you're more particular interested in and compared to the others?
I would say biology, just how your brain thinks and why, or if you could change the way your mind thinks. Personality, strongholds of your life, or how to improve yourself.
So you mean like different human personalities, how people can see the same thing but respond differently, like that type of thing?
Stuff like that. Negative and positive. Obviously you want positive. You want to improve yourself, not go backwards and be negative and be more destructive. Stuff like that. Encouragement and uplifting type things. That obviously have to do with your brain, because it's all about how you think.
Yeah, so you could view that as though it's kind of brain science, where you're looking at how the brain works, but you could also view that as psychology, on how our behavior actually manifests out of our neuronal infrastructure. So is yours more in the sense of our behaviors? Your interest?
Behaviors, also how you view yourself, how you see yourself, that kind of thing.
So your history, because you're born and bred New Zealander, grew up in Auckland.
Born and bred Auckland too,
Moved into creative things like the arts, and now you're in the trades. But you also have this interest in science, which is interesting because people don't have enough time to sort of think about these ideas, but you still take some time to develop some type of interest, which is not everybody has that, so that's quite cool. And then, so with your interest in the behavioral stuff, is there any type of person that you follow around this behavioral psychology that you found more interesting?
That would definitely be Jordan Peterson.
Right. I
find him real inspirational. especially lately with a lot of his YouTube videos. I watch them, and I think the main reason why I'm drawn to him and why I connect with what he says is because he deals with a lot. One aspect of what he talks about is male issues and to help men do better in life. His book 12 Rules of Life, I bought that, I'm reading it, and I find it really helpful. And he's definitely my modern day hero because he seems to just articulate himself in such a way that's just so clear, concise, and inspirational to me when I hear him. He's definitely one of those speakers that you listen to, and there's so many times where he'll say something and you'll just be like, oh, it hits you in your heart, and you're like, oh man, that's me that he's talking about.
So you're getting some good meaning.
Yeah, man, definitely.
So that's kind of different from other things that we might hit, like how DNA replicates and how far stars are away and speed of light. This is more, it's quite a human-based interest, which is quite cool to have a human-based interest because that's the important thing, is to get us behaving properly.
Yeah.
So what exactly does he talk about? Is it that he gives meaning to behavior, or is it that he's kind of trying to stop the protests happening, or what's the interesting part of Jordan Peterson for you? Is it that he grounds your own life in an idea?
The most interesting part would be one such thing he said was stop saying things that makes you weak, and that I connected with that because I definitely say things that make me weak. To cut a long story short, I have my own downfalls or own flaws within myself, much like everyone else. And I notice so many times where I'll say things or think of things about myself that makes me weak. And when he said that, I connected with it, and I realized just how much dead wood I have in my life that I need to cut off. And it's so much easier said than done, you know. Like, you can hear it, you can understand it, but now put it into action. Do something to solve that problem, and that's the part that's hard. You really need to cut away all that dead wood, and like Jordan Peterson said, that's like 95% of you, man. Like, you're cutting away.
It's a painful process when you have to get rid of that much of yourself.
And I'm still just, to be honest, I'm doing a pathetic job at it, man. It's taking too long.
But it's given you a goal, right, to move towards, so you have an ideal.
Yeah.
So how does that make you change how you view things? Like, do you do things differently now that you sort of have that understanding?
I'm more aware now of how I'm thinking, my attitude towards challenges, my attitude towards the view of myself when I'm approaching challenges. I'm now, where in the past I might succumb to a challenge and be like, man, you're useless. I'll be like, don't in my head I'll be thinking, stop saying things like that about yourself. Don't be like that. This is just another challenge for you to overcome.
So that's interesting, because you've got yourself deciding the decisions, and then you've got this other part of yourself saying, don't do that.
Yeah.
So it's like you've got this overriding critic. Is that what you're trying to describe?
Yeah, well, it's funny because Jordan Peterson even said the same thing in his videos. He's saying that, you know, when I'm doing my talks with people at these Congress halls, there's a voice, which is my audible voice, talking to people, and there's another voice that's saying, you're lying, that's not true, you don't believe that. But with me, it's like, I have my audible voice, or, you know, I'll be acting in a situation, and there's a voice saying to me, you're not good enough, you can't do this, you're stupid, you're inadequate. And there's a third voice that's saying, don't believe that voice. Don't believe that voice. Forget it. That voice is just going to be your ruin. That voice is the reason why you're not doing well, and why you haven't done well your whole life, because that voice has been the superior voice. Don't let that be the superior voice anymore.
Yeah, so that's really cool that you found that, and it's being useful for you, and that's quite psychological, quite how our brain manifests into behavior and embodiment and things, which is quite far out of where I work. It was in biology.
Yeah.
And so what do you see as the future in more of a biological looking at the future point of view? So how we're learning how to clone genes and do transgenics and modify DNA for reasons that we think are important. Do you see that as being a huge influence in the future, or do you think something else might come along? Because computers are obviously very important. They're the competition.
Definitely important, man. And
do you think it's okay to do genetic modification?
I think so.
What do you think? So. What do you think could be achieved using that type of technology?
You can enhance people to be stronger, smarter.
Stronger, smarter, yeah.
And smarter being the best of all, right? Because we are our brains. Our brains is who we are. If we can make ourselves smarter, we can solve problems faster and more efficiently. So we definitely want that. That's something that you definitely want to put value on. That's the most valuable. Stronger, of course, that's another one. Not as valuable, but definitely something that a human would want, being stronger for labour and whatever.
Do you think we need to get off Earth?
It's a hard call, but I think, we're kind of treading on the territory of Elon Musk there when you say that. I love Elon Musk. I think he's a great guy, and I think his whole expedition to, he's got this contingency plan. He's thinking so far ahead, thinking so differently from other people out there that he's like, man, planet Earth won't be able to sustain us forever. We need to find a contingency planet. And right now, the best we have is Mars. It's amazing that he's thinking like that. And I think, I'm going back to your question. Your question was, do we need to move? Is that the question? Do we need to move?
Do we need to get off Earth?
Do we need to get off Earth? Right now, it's not a urgency. It's not urgent right now. Will it be urgent in the future? That's a hard question, man. Because I look at the planet as something that's just so tough, man. We've got this planet, man. I think people will underestimate this planet. That's tough. It'll be here long before we're gone. Once we're gone and there's another species that takes over, this planet will still be here, no matter what. So I guess just my faith. This is just my faith speaking. I think we don't need to move anytime soon. I could be wrong, but that's just my faith speaking.
So if we bring it back to just New Zealand a little bit, because that's where we are, do you think New Zealand is behaving correctly in the world? I'm just thinking about biology, which is where I work, because New Zealand has quite a strict no GMO policy, but other countries do a lot of transgenic crops and they grow them out in the field. Do you think New Zealand is correct to limit that, or do you think it might be better to use it a bit more, or what do you think about that as a tool, or are you worried about it, or do you think your friends are worried about it?
Sorry, bro, I'm a bit ignorant in this area. Is New Zealand are they not really exploring that realm? Are they kind of strict on genetic modification?
It's illegal to grow genetically modified crops in New Zealand.
Well,
generally, there's been a few field trials, but it's very tightly regulated compared to some other countries.
Okay. Is it wrong? No.
Because people worry about it. I don't know what the worries are. It's not natural. It's against God. People don't understand it, so they're fearful of it, I guess, are the type of things that come up. But
I think they should be more
would you buy, if there was two different type of apples, and one was genetically modified and cheaper, and one was not genetically modified and the same, would you care? Would you buy the cheaper one? Doesn't matter?
I wouldn't care.
What happens if the genetically modified one is more healthy, or a different colour, or got something else going
if it's more healthy, man, then that's better. And then I would be pro GMO.
So what happens if it was a normal apple and a GMO, it was a new colour, had whatever flavour you wanted, and was more healthy, but it was GMO?
Then
no problem?
Yeah. I think no problem, and I'd be pro GMO, because you've just made something that's better for humanity, something that's going to give you more nutrition. So that's obviously...
Because do you know how apples are made already, or fruit are made already?
No idea.
Because there's breeding programs, right, where you have a big field of trees, and one has better apples. Out of all the 10,000 trees, there's one with really good apples.
Yep.
And so they'll breed that one, and then they'll plant the whole field of that tree, and then there's another good one, and they'll breed the whole field of that tree, and so that's breeding. But they can do mutant studies where they'll just randomly mutagenize apples and see if they get a good trait out.
Yeah.
And then so with these new tools, you can add in new traits quite easily without needing to use radiation or other ways that they introduce mutations.
Yeah.
So it's quite an interesting space, so that's why I was asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything else? Do you cover any, like with your day-to-day work?
Yeah.
Do you encounter people in your job that sort of ask scientific questions, or it doesn't really come up? It's just you?
They're all customers that just want us to come in and put their garage in for them, you know?
Not worried about vaccinations or climate change or pollution, not so much.
There's none of that going on. No one's thinking that deeply at that time. They just want their job to be done, and that's it.
So, as a final question before we finish off, if you were to think towards the end of your life, so me and you are pretty close to 30, I think.
Yeah.
So if we think
I'm 34, so I'm past
34. So if we think 70 years in the future, right before we're about to die,
wow,
what do you think is going to be the biggest change in the world? Is it going to be?
Bro, I think there's going to be biomechanics going on. I think there's going to be
like robot stuff.
Yeah, I think there'll be that. I think well, I'm confident there'll be that stuff will be going on. I think there'll be
do you think the robot stuff will beat the genetic stuff?
Yeah,
because
I think there'll be biogenetics going on.
Both at the same time?
I think so. I really want to see that there'll be nanotech going on, but that's probably a bit too optimistic.
So what would nanotech do?
Well, maybe I watch too much movies, bro, but I've seen just the nanotech going on in movies like, man, I forgot the name of it. Johnny Depp's in the movie.
Transcendence.
That's the one.
That's a good
and
movie.
And there's nanotechnology in that where people just heal at a miraculous rate.
So I think that's loosely...
They can regenerate a whole arm or leg or whatever.
That's a good movie.
And I don't know if that's just impossible to do.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I look at it and I'm like, that must... Wow, well, if that's realistic, then wow. That's all I can say about that.
That movie, I think, is loosely based on the book by Ray Kurzweil called Singularity, where he talks about that type of possibility in the future.
Yeah.
And in that movie, Transcendence, I think it's called, they kind of cast Johnny Depp as the bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, they make him sinister.
Yeah, they do.
But he's actually curing things and sorting things out and making it so people can't die.
He's logical.
Super logical.
Yeah. But because we're humans, we're emotional, so we can look at things from a different angle. We're like, wait, that's wrong.
Yeah, but I was on his side in the movie. They made him be the bad guy, but he was making
sorting
games.
shit out.
He was sorting stuff out, exactly. So that's an interesting thing, how they still make the movie, and even though that it's a futuristic progress, that was the bad guy.
Yeah.
Shouldn't it be
which
the
shows
good guy?
you, which is interesting because it shows you how us humans think and what we place value on.
We're ready to cast that
what we
as the
place
bad guy.
value on, man. What we place value on as humans, despite progress.
It's kind of an anti-progress thing.
And you know, it's like we place we place human lives and ethics above progress,
or human feelings and beliefs. Yeah, well, that brings in, as a final thought, so that brings in God. Because there's a lot of people that still believe in God, and that plays a large part in the way they operate, the decisions that they make, and what they think is okay and not okay.
Yeah.
So how do you sort of fit? Like, do you think that those people are valid, or do you think we need to move in a different direction, or do we need to have a discussion in both ways? Because when you talk about transcendence and that type of thing, I don't think religious people will like that.
Oh, they definitely won't like that.
But then you're saying...
And you can't have a discussion with them really either. Most of them, I would say. Most of them. I can't say all of them because...
So do you
Obviously,
think,
there's some religious people that are real open-minded, and you can talk to them, and you can actually change the way they think.
I would say that they're only open-minded in the sense that they're not too religious.
Yeah. But if you could have a full-on religious person, it's like, what's the point of the discussion, man? You bring up whatever points you like, you can have a real good discussion with them, but they'll still just keep on thinking the same way they're thinking and doing the same things that they do with no change.
So if you're looking out to the future and you can imagine your life being as good as it can be, because we've developed all of these technologies to a space where they are benefiting you to a maximum level, what would your life be like?
Sorry, I say that again, bro?
So before I asked you about a future situation when me and you were dying, what would the technology be like?
Yeah.
If you think about what that could be like and how that would benefit you, what would that mean? Would it mean that you don't get sick, you don't age, you don't die, you can travel to other planets? What's the main thing that you think we need to achieve?
I think we're in an age. We're in an age, man, where like we are on the cusp of some major breakthroughs, bro.
I agree.
I don't want to say unfortunately, but I'll say that we may be falling outside of that era, or be just in that era.
We might miss it?
We might just miss it, or we'll just fall within those kind of breakthroughs, like anti-aging. The fountain of youth, or I talked about nanites before, nanotechnology, biogenetics. These things are going to be coming in within the century or 2 centuries, maximum. I think within 2 centuries you're going to see that kind of stuff. It's going to be amazing.
And we might miss that. You worry.
Yeah. Well, man, I hope I'm going to be alive when it happens. Because it's going to be amazing to see that kind of stuff being going on, props to science is all I can say. Like, these guys work so hard and they come up with amazing ideas and theories and they work on them and they just keep retesting, and then they find these answers and they come up with these breakthroughs where it's like, we found it. Nanotechnology. We know how to heal you with these little nanites. No, we can. If you lost your arm in the war back in 50 years ago, it's now regenerated. Boom. Imagine that. Wow. That's just... I don't understand that, but scientists do.
Plants can do it.
And then
Plants can do it now.
Yeah.
I look forward to that future. Well, Tristan, it's been great hearing your thoughts from a New Zealand point of view. And thank you for coming on Crocoduck. And hope to see you. We can talk more about some of those aging ideas next time.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Peace, Crocoduck.